close. Wanted to talk about something that everybody talks about. I don't talk about it a lot because I tell men to, grow some balls. Sorry about the internet. I'm trying to adjust this. It's super sensitive. Okay. Every father's rights group, every forum, every website that talks about family court talks about how horrible it is, how bad it is to go through, and all the suffering that comes with it. Thought I had a water. So it kind of, at this point, it kind of goes without saying what people go through, but there we go. That's what I want. But it kind of, everybody already knows about this stuff. So that being said, I don't talk about it a lot because, again, you're going to go through suffering in family court. I suffered. Everybody suffers. Your suffering is not different. There's a lot of people out there that will, there's a lot of guys out there, oh, well, it's a woman's state where I'm at. People love in Washington or in any state. Oh, I'm suffering here and I'm getting screwed because it's a woman's state. Every single state is a woman's state. And there's women who get screwed in every single state in the country too. Every single Western country is a woman's country. So let's be clear before I get into this. Whatever you have suffered, everybody else who's been in family court has suffered the same thing. Okay. But I want to talk about it and acknowledge it because some people think I had it easy and don't think that I suffered in family court. And I do want to just acknowledge and let people know that I know how bad it is. But if we sit around and just did videos all day on what you go through and the pain and suffering of family court and how corrupt and crazy it is, we'll be here all day and we'll be just like every other father's rights group where nothing gets accomplished and nothing changes. And while I'm at it, if you're on here and you want to ask a question and see if I got a quickie answer for you, feel free in the chat. So one of the craziest things, there's different levels to the suffering too. First of all, obviously, nobody knows the pain and suffering you go through in family court unless they've been through it. Your family, your friends, if they haven't been divorced or been through a custody battle, been falsely accused, restraining order, they have no idea what it's like going through this stuff. If, the first obvious thing that you suffer or the untold pain that you go through in family court is getting blindsided, especially if you didn't see it coming. Sometimes people see a divorce coming, it's not going to work out, but then you get blindsided with a restraining order, get kicked out of your home, restrained from the mother, restrained from your kids. And the fact that you knew that something was coming kind of softens the blow a little bit, but it's still the shock. There's still a crazy trauma or PTSD that comes with coming to court or getting blindsided, but the guys who don't see it coming, they probably suffer the most the initial phase. You already work extremely hard to support your family. Then you come home and your kids are depending on you. They want to spend time with you. You go to baseball games, piano lessons, you do all this other stuff, karate lessons, recitals, and then you go back to work. And guys already have a challenge in life that the average guy doesn't have. Whether you like Andrew Tate or Kevin Samuels or whatever, and sometimes some of their stuff is over the top, but I look at stuff that when somebody tells the truth, if they tell the truth is the truth. If a doctor smokes cigarettes and they're recommending you don't smoke, it doesn't matter whether they're being a hypocrite. The truth is the truth, So you work hard. You come home every day exhausted. You're out in the battlefield of the workforce. You're a salesman competing, or you're out there risking your life, throwing crab pots around on a fisherman's boat, or You're climbing telephone poles. They even have telephone poles anymore. You're climbing, I don't know, cell phone towers, uh, poles that have, the cable and wiring for electricity. You're risking your life. You're going through sludge and mud and feces, cleaning up sewers, whatever. You're going out there and you're battling. You're battling in the world, and you're going to war to make money, to earn a living, to put food on the table. Then you come home and you got a restraining order. I mean, you're kicked out of your home. And you're kicked out of your home. You're blindsided. You're thinking, what the heck is this? Me and my wife were just hanging out. We just went on a date. Things seemed great. We just made love a couple days ago or yesterday. We just, had a family outing. Everything seemed great. And then you get totally blindsided. So there's a shock of you getting divorced, or you got a custody arrangement, and you're getting along with your baby's mom. Then you get blindsided. So there's a shock of that throws you off. Just like if a country, like we're in America right here, if Mexico or Canada just started bombing us for no reason, we would be freaking out and there would be panic everywhere. Or just like 9/11, there was panic everywhere. People woke up to see buildings being blown up and crashing, and everybody was just in shock. And then we went to war and stuff. I think we went to war with the wrong people, and there's a bunch of bullcrap behind 9/11. But if you think I'm a nut job, you could go watch a movie on YouTube called Spare Change, or anything else out there. There's more and more of that stuff coming out. But you suffer the shock, the initial shock of getting blindsided, okay? Then you have to sit there and read the false allegations against you. Then eventually you go to court. Then there's phase 2, where you're actually, you got to scramble for an attorney. Right, if you got restrained or kicked out of your home, you were deprived of life, liberty, and property. The liberty to your kids, Charleston versus Granville, your autonomy to raise your kids the way that you want. Now the government has intervened and said you can't go near your own kids. Isn't that insane? I know you already know that, but for those people watching who are a second wife or a friend of somebody you're watching for your kids, it's just insane to think one day you could wake up and all your freedoms are gone and you didn't do anything. And somebody went to court and lied and blindsided you. This is why when people get emergency orders, everybody should look up the option of a motion to quash or motion to dissolve. Most states have Civil Rule 65, which adopts the Federal Rule 65. It says nobody can get an emergency injunction against anybody in any area of law unless they give notice to the other side. And the only exception to that is if there will be irreparable harm in the meantime, while you're waiting to give notice, or giving notice might cause irreparable harm, like, oh, he's going to kill me if I tell him I'm going to ex parte to get a restraining order. Well, that's stupid, because if he's going to kill you for just going to court, he's really going to kill you after you win in court, if he's willing to risk the death penalty. So that whole thing is backwards and bogus. And then you have a right to dissolve or quash the order with 2 days notice to the other side in most states. If you don't have a Civil Rule 65, you can Google the name of your state. Let's say you're in California. You Google California temporary injunctions and then read that rule. So you get blindsided, you get kicked out of your home, and now you're going to have a court hearing. You scramble to get an attorney, $5,000 to $10,000 up front. The mother's asking for you to pay attorney fees. The mother asking you to get alcohol assessment, anger management assessment, supervised visitation, and pay her attorney fees. Boom, you're $10,000-$15,000 in the hole right out the gate. You're financially raped, and maybe you built an empire of, you have your little kingdom, your little empire, and you built and set up stuff. Or let's say you got $50,000 in savings. You're going to work another 10 or 15 years. You're going to invest that money, and hopefully you have $500,000 or something to retire. And then that's just taken from you. And a lot of these women that do that are gold digger, emotional basket cases in the moment, they will say at the end of the case, wow, we could have spent all that money on the kids. They just destroy. Women don't know how to give, supply, and serve. They were made to look to a man to be a provider and a protector. So they have a natural God-given instinct to look to a man to provide leadership in their life, when they raise children, to provide protection and provision. And that gets perverted and taken out to the nth degree, where they just go and look for provision in a man without playing her part. Where she'll go and take stuff from him and leave him with nothing. Or you have somebody like Michael Jordan, when he got divorced, I think he was married a good 17, 20 years. When he got divorced, he gave his wife $250 million. I think that was half of his estate at the time. She was a waitress when they met. Just think about the torment that comes. You build, like, maybe he's worth $1 billion then. He's at least worth $500 million. You spend your whole life, blood, sweat, and tears, working all day long to earn a living playing basketball. You end up being one of the greatest ever. And a woman comes along who's a waitress who meets you one night, you go on a date, and then 18 years later, she takes half your empire. Now, I understand she raises kids. He cheated on her in every city, probably. But then all she needs is $3 or $4 million to be set for life, to have a nice house and not have to pay her bills. Why does she need $250 million? That's insane. So there's the torment and suffering psychologically that goes with being financially raped. Now, you might not be Michael Jordan, but and you don't have $500 million left over, or $250 million left over, you have everything taken from you. So you're devastated even more. And then, like I've told you guys before, I hated just checking my mail because of the initial trauma of me being served paperwork, going to court, being lied about. And here I go to the mailbox. Am I going to get another letter from the mother's attorney with a motion or declaration saying what a monster I am? And you got the entire system, before you meet somebody like me, you got the entire intimidating system raining down on you. The judge gives you an attitude. When I walked into court the first time, the bailiff gave me an attitude. The bailiff said, I went up and I said, I just want to hand my copy of my paperwork to the judge in case he didn't get a copy. And he goes, you just be quiet for a second. Just stay right there. Ma'am, and he looked over me. Ma'am, did he give you a copy of this? And then I said, and then she said, yeah, he did. He goes, okay, sit down and calm down. I'm like, what's, like, he immediately started treating me like a wild rabid animal. And then you get treated like that. So there's a psychological warfare that goes on. Like, how dare you disrespect me and come at me and treat me like that when you just met me? I mean, the way that these people talk to you and condescendingly bully you around and treat you like an animal when they're supposed to be serving you and serving the people and assume you're innocent of being a monster. They treat you like the animal that they think you are. And if you dare say, that's crazy, or you react emotionally, they're like, see, look, he's the monster that we said he was. So you have this rage that's building up and there's actually a tort, T-O-R-T, a tort or a type of lawsuit for a civil wrong called the tort of outrage, where somebody does something and you can't really explain it very well in the law, because there might not be a law that happened like when the internet first came out and somebody's cyber stalking you, or they're posting stuff online. Like, they might not have like in 2000, 2004, 2005, when everybody was having a computer, cell phone, all that stuff. The internet wasn't as big or everywhere in every home until, like, I don't know, 2005, 2008, everybody had Facebook, 2010, something like that. It's really not that long ago, which seems crazy. But let's say something like that happens, and somebody's slandering you or doing something through the internet, and people don't really grasp what the internet is, especially these old school judges, and you can't explain, oh, this is a violation, this is cyber stalking, and that term hasn't even come up yet. You could sue them for the tort of outrage, because what they're doing is doing something that causes someone to say, that's outrageous. And that's how you're treated in family court. So family court, and this is an argument I would make on paper, the family court, the courthouse, which should be the safest place for anybody in America. You should be safe from harassment, from bullying, from any kind of abuse, psychological, emotional, or physical, or any kind of danger. This is the arena where the mother is able to use an attorney and talk crazy to me and harass me. If I talk to the mother the way the attorney lies about me in court pleadings, she would get another restraining order against me, or a restraining order against me if she doesn't have one. That's the insanity of being in the twilight zone of the family court. It's totally backwards. I got a couple comments. Let me see. Okay, I'm in a legal dispute with my current spouse who has been manipulative and non-compliant with court orders regarding custody, no vehicle, property access, and support. I filed contempt charges against him because he hasn't returned my keys, changed the security system, and hasn't followed court orders. I wouldn't just do contempt. I would motion the court for an emergency order to enforce that right now and get a police escort to be able to do that stuff. I've been fighting for stability for me and our kids. Any advice to prepare for the hearing? Well, to prepare for a hearing, I need to know what his, what the violations are, what his defense is and stuff like that. That, if you give me a vague question like that, how do I get ready for the hearing? Like, that's like saying, how do I get ready for the football game? How do I get ready for the play coming up? You got to practice. You got to memorize your lines. You got to show the drama instructor at, or whatever, how well you perform that role or whatever. Like, I can't give you an entire full hour-and-a-half consultation in the comments here. That's why I'm saying if people have questions, you can ask if there's a quickie answer, but there's no quickie answer to this. But I did give you, like, I would be doing, if your hearing is a month away, I'd be going to the emergency ex parte court. If you have an attorney and they didn't tell you about going to an emergency court to get an injunction to go to the house and get your keys and enforce the order, then your attorney's an idiot. If you didn't know, that's understandable, but I would try and get an injunction. He has a free attorney because he lied his financial affidavit to support groups. Okay, you should be doing discovery to make him hand over his financials. Makes $200,000. He insisted we agree on me being a stay-at-home mother. This guy's out partying and hasn't given me a dime. He's lying. So you should be going to court. You should be going to court and getting him in trouble and then getting compensation for having to do a contempt motion, for having to fight for contempt, for the waste of time that that it is going to court and basically harassing you by having to go to court. There's a phrase called but for, just a regular B-U-T. But for, or if it wasn't for his misconduct, I wouldn't have to be in court. So, but for his misconduct, I wouldn't have to do this contempt. But for his contempt, we wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't have to spend money on this attorney. I wouldn't have to spend my own money and time and energy having to do all this stuff. So, but for his conduct or misconduct, we wouldn't be dealing with this stuff. So, that being said, I should be compensated, and not just if you have an attorney fees, but a sanction or a punishment on top of that, like $250, or you could testify, I know he makes $200,000. And if you saw that amount of money in the bank, or you have any kind of paper trail, you should be subpoenaing his financials, his bank statements. Really, ideally, if you have an attorney, they should have done a deposition as soon as the case started and have him hand over all financial records and all financial institutions for the past year. And then you'd have proof that he's lying on that stuff. So, okay. So, people love to say that I had it easy, as if I didn't suffer in my own case. And then they think I'm unrelatable because I had it easy. And I've had a guy, I think I've redone this video on TikTok. I have these DMs from these haters. These guys came on my page whining and crying about the system. I'm like, what are you going to do about it? Did you do this? Did you do that? And then they start getting mad at me because I'm crapping on their half-ass effort to fight for their kids. And they're like, you don't know what I've gone through. You don't know anything. You're stupid. So I've been in and out of court in my own case for 20 years. And they're saying I don't know anything about the court. And then I've won in court over and over, and they've lost. See, my biggest haters, I mean, that's another thing. Like I let most of it roll off, but I have to suffer through a bunch of disloyal, unfaithful, persecuting haters that are part of my gender. And I'm here being a voice for men and being a tool, or, I'm providing resources to help men speak their voice in court, to get relief or to win in court. And every week I get somebody messaging me that, hey, I won my hearing, or I'm making progress, or the other side is starting to offer to compromise and meet me halfway. I just had a guy who's on the other side of his country from his baby's mom, and he's felt powerless and he wanted to visit. She tried to stop the visit and modify his time, got an attorney, and now he's punking the attorney. And now the attorney just confessed to the mother lying, and now he's going to screw her in court, it looks like, and make her look stupid. But he flipped that around. And so when I tell people to do that kind of stuff, guys don't want to do that. And they're like, but this and but that and but the system. They hate me. Did you try what I did? No. Did you try it this way? No. Did you try this and that and the other and get on the offensive? No. So you didn't even attempt to fight. And the guys don't want to turn around and fight because they've given up and they quit, and they're a bunch of lazy, cowardly bitches. And then when they talk shit to me for saying you're so insensitive, you had it easy, you won custody in 7 months. I got custody in 7 months because I went all out and made my daughter my world, and I went through intense hell for 7 months. And then so I got DMs from guys saying, oh, your child is the product of incest and inbreeding, and she's a retarded monkey, or a monkey with Down syndrome, and my daughter's biracial, so that was a racial story. I got another hater who said the only reason I got custody is because my baby's mom is a black crackhead. My baby's mom is a human resource manager with a degree in communication. So, or journalism degree. She has a master's in human resource management, and she's a human resource manager who makes $90,000 a year. So my own gender is full of false allegations, and they treat me like any crazy baby mom treated them, or that my baby mom treated me. So I have to suffer through that just to find the 1 out of 100 persons, because only 1 out of 100 of you watching me will actually get a consult and actually do what I'm talking about. And everybody needs a consultation. There was a lady on here, she asked a question like, how do I get ready for my hearing? Or any advice for the hearing. I got all kinds of advice that could, if you wanted to know, the average person who really wants to master this and really wants to fight the right way needs a good 5 hours with me over the course of the first month that they're in court. A lot of people, they're so desperate to learn everything and thirst for the knowledge and want to learn and want to apply it, they get multiple appointments with me in the first week or two. Those are the guys who really want to fight. The ones who want a quickie answer, wave a magic wand and stuff, they call me up. They don't know what their court orders say. They don't know what their baby's mom's boyfriend that lives there, whether he has a record. They've never even attempted to look at a background check, which defies all common sense that God gave a monkey. If somebody is living with your kid and you don't know them, why the hell would you not use freaking common sense that a third grader could use? My sister with Down syndrome has got more common sense. If you don't look up to see if the person living with your kid is a child molester or a predator or has a history of violence or abusing his own kids, you don't even attempt to look for that? Well, I had a guy that I just talked to the other day, and maybe I do a lot of videos on TikTok real quick. I don't always get them up on YouTube. Now I could sit down and produce videos on a nice 4K camera and, have a nice explanation and not wear sweats, wear a casual, nicer shirt like I did my most popular video about 50-50 custody. I could do that. But I got so much stuff to say. I don't got time for all that. I don't have time to put up a front for you guys, and I got to pretend to wear a suit and tie and look all pretty and have a fancy background like these attorneys or Dad Talk Today or some punk ass bitch sellout like that Carroll guy. I forget his first name, Eric Carroll. From Dad Talk Today, just whines, cries, pisses, and moans. And then he goes and meets with legislatures and gets sexually aroused because this is the only meaningful thing he's done in his life. I'm not here to be fake and phony. If you can't recognize the content here is the stuff that you need, and you want to follow somebody who's a lawyer with a fancy law firm, or Eric Carroll has a nice little studio with a nice mic and a nice logo, and he seems professional, but he's totally empty and void of anything of substance. And the reason why I talk about that guy, he's a guy who I reached out to him. I said, dude, why don't you have people on? And I wasn't even talking about him having to have me on, which would be a good idea, because all of his followers are hopeless, whining and crying, complaining about the system, doing nothing about their family law case, and he doesn't provide any help. He's got an audience of hundreds of thousands of people, and he won't. And there's plenty of other people like him. It's not just him, but he's a great example of somebody who blew up. And I could blow up and get hundreds of thousands of followers if I did videos like this where I talk about how much you suffer and how the court system sucks and stuff like that. And I'm doing this to acknowledge the reality of it, just so you guys don't think, oh, James is such an insensitive sociopath. He can't even empathize with our plight. Like I told you right from the beginning of my case, I was blindsided and traumatized. I had a great plan with my baby's mom. I had a night job and I was going to be our daughter's daycare. Then the mother went to court to get her restraining order. Then she went and hired a daycare at $600 a month on her own, just so she wouldn't have to deliver the child to me. What kind of insanity is that? That's simply the normal, logical response from a modern day woman with two fat, ugly sisters who never had a boyfriend. One of them, a leader in our church that talked all this spiritual head and all this stuff about how she loves God and all this other stuff. And then she turns around and tries to destroy her niece's relationship with her father. Why? Because she's mad that her sister got pregnant out of wedlock. If you ever want to, I think I have a picture or two in one of my videos, but the crazy sister, the one time I took a picture with my baby's mom in 1999, we were at a formal dinner. Our church had a 25-year anniversary, so everybody's in tuxes and nice dresses and stuff. I bought my baby's mom a $400 dress. Her ugly fat sister is standing in the background in the picture and putting a thumbs down and ruins the picture. It's the only picture we ever took together. Not that I really need anything at this point, but that shows the legacy of the people who want to destroy my life with my daughter. Her wonderful spiritual leader sister. My baby's mom's the older sister. I don't have to get it. I probably should just do a video on my story in case anybody's interested in it. And then I'd show pictures and talk about you. If you just Google my baby's mom, her name is so unique. I don't think there's anybody in the world with her name. It's Sedaris Wright, Sederis, Wright with a W. And you might see her with her sisters, Yvonne and Barbara. And you'll see them out in the community serving and helping kids or doing good with the community, but they abandon my daughter. Insane, isn't it? Oh, we're out here with the youth and we're doing this and that. And they're out there celebrating with their uncle's new wife and somebody who's not biologically tied to them. They're celebrating and they're spending time serving all these people and stuff. And here I go, I'm raising my daughter alone and I have to deal with the pain, her pain and suffering of abandonment. And then I got to fight off my baby's mom in court. And this is the type of insanity and the psychological warfare that will go on. In my court case, after I got custody, my baby's mom's attorney, and I can show you guys court documents, and maybe I will when I do my story. I definitely should talk about the time I went to jail without being notified of the hearing that got me sent to jail. But, my baby's mom, after I got full custody, after I had her for a year, I went back to modified child support, and they filled out a court form saying that she shouldn't have to disclose her address. Why? Because I'm dangerous to women and children. The guy that she trusted with the care of the child and never went back to modify or get her back. And then for years, they said that I'm a monster, I'm mentally, I'm crazy. And then one time she said, I'm afraid James is caught up in court so much and spending so much time in court that he's neglecting our daughter, not spending time with her. And that was in the midst of, she had four phases of abandonment. The first time was a year and a half, total abandonment. Never contacted our daughter, moved out of state. 1.5, 3, 5, and 7 years. I think it was during the 5-year period that she said that. And then they get to keep saying that and violating Civil Rule 11. And the judge doesn't give a shit, and the judge wants to bend over backwards to help restore the mother-child relationship. And I've done a video on my judge. I don't know if it's still up or if I pulled it. I protested my judge in his neighborhood and told his neighbors and exposed him more ways than one. Got him reversed in the Court of Appeals. And then he had a vindictive vendetta against me because not only did I get him reversed, I emailed everybody the decision and said, my judge is the presiding judge of King County in Seattle. There's 40 other judges that he's overseeing as the presiding judge. He just got reversed in the Court of Appeals because he can't read the plain language of child support laws, and he denied me something, and he got reversed. My sister with Down syndrome can read the child support laws better than him, and then I showed it to everybody. So he has to go to work thoroughly embarrassed, and everybody's looking at him. I'm just thinking, walking in the courthouse, and there's people there like, oh, there goes Judge Rogers, who made that horrible ruling against that dad who's devoted to his kid. What a psycho. So anyway, then he had a vindictive vendetta against me. And then later on, I told the court, I told my judge, and this guy took jurisdiction of my case in like 2010, and he oversaw everything for the next 10 years. So I couldn't have an opinion on anybody else unless I went to the Court of Appeals. And so I told him in a brief, I said, and this is after he threw me in jail for no good reason. I said, you and my baby's mom's attorney got an agenda against me. You're tag teaming me. He's a sexually deviant pervert who abuses women. And I told my judge, your business partner, Stuart Greenberg, he abused women and secretly videotaped them changing in his office bathroom, this psychologist friend of his. And then he killed himself afterward. And these are the type of perverts that you like. And you were when you were a prosecutor, you and the lead prosecutor gave advice to Catholic priests on how to defend against child molestation cases. So you have sexually deviant perversion all around you. And you hate on me. And I finally figured out why you hate on me. And why you tag team me with the child abusing, psycho, woman abusing, misogynistic, racist of the mother's attorney, because he called an Asian attorney a lying C word. He lost cases on purpose for women clients, so they go broke. And he said, oh, you poor thing, you can come live with me. And you don't have to worry about your bill. You could pay it off by doing free secretary work in my home. So he had a free slave labor operation going, and he did it to 20 clients. So I exposed all this in court, and so that's why they all hated me. And I said, the reason why you guys hate me, I finally figured it out. Because I date, even as fat and ugly as I am, I have a history of dating beautiful women. And so I said, I date beautiful women, and some of them wrote declarations for me and then put a picture in there to prove that, okay, this is a real woman. Here's the real me. You can find me online if you did a background or whatever. And so there's pictures of beautiful women who I dated, who I'm still friends with, who love my daughter, their kids spend time with my kid or whatever. I said, I date beautiful women, and you both have hideously ugly wives. And they do, and they know it's true. And then so when we had a court hearing based on that paperwork, the judge said, well, James is sitting here making fun of our wives. And then he just moved on. You guys are afraid to tell the judge what the law says. I told my judge his wife is fugly. And nothing happened to me. Now, I have gone to jail in his presence, but that was because they did a contempt motion. I never got served. A bench warrant was issued. That's a whole nother story. I can tell that story later on. Because I also want to let people know the legacy of my baby's mom and all the witnesses against me. I go on my Facebook page and I've posted statements from my baby's mom and her friends, because my friends on Facebook are friends with them or friends of their friends. So everybody's connected. And people could not believe the stuff that they said about me and did. Now, because these people were trying to destroy my life with my daughter, now that she's grown, I'm letting everybody else know what their real legacy is. I show court documents of a guy named Chemo Evans. I dated his wife at one point. So here's me and my baby's mom. Here's us making a baby. Here's Chemo Evans and his wife, Mary Evans, who works for Washington State Employees Credit Union. There's one point where she went through my bank account because I had a bank account where she was an account manager, and she went through my bank account and revealed stuff to the court. And I complained about her. Then she tried to get a restraining order against me for ruining her job after she went through my stuff because she came and testified against me. And then when she did a restraining order against me, Chemo, her husband, back then they were just boyfriend, girlfriend, Chemo, her husband, came to court to testify. And so did my baby's mom's sister. So I was getting ganged up on from all kinds of different angles. And so my point with this is, me and my baby's mom were together. Chemo and Mary were together. My baby's mom and Mary, they used to be roommates. And I used to be roommates with Chemo. Right out of college, a bunch of us, my main community of friends and stuff like that, and circle of friends, we all went to the same church. And a bunch of us sub-rented houses together. And, because we were right out of college, we couldn't afford to, be on our own. So anyway, we actually had a house with single mothers, and I would go spend time with one of the mother's kids. There's a mother who, her son didn't know his dad, and I used to spend time. She used to beg me to spend time with him. And then I went to her to ask for a declaration, and they slammed the door in my face because they were on the mother's side because the mother had slandered me so good. But I actually dated Mary. I had a little fling with, she called it a spring fling in court for a week. And she was dating Chemo, and then she's still flirting with me because we're all around each other, the same, community or whatever you want to call it. What is it called? My social network. We used to always do stuff together, go to Mariners games, go to, movies, Red Robin. We did church stuff together. We did outside of church, did barbecues. The guys would have a barbecue, and the whole church community and friends and extended friends. It was like we were almost in a fraternity and sororities, and we were hanging out all the time. Tight-knit group of friends, or for a while was, and everybody turned into a total Judas. So I'm saying this to paint a picture. I suffered crazy betrayal, and some of you guys have suffered. One of the biggest sufferings is some of you guys' own family won't come to court and testify. And these are some of the biggest punk-ass bitches out there. You're a guy and your dad is a little simp and he doesn't want to get involved and testify to what a good father you are, or your own mother, or your wife's, your father-in-law. These people have seen you be a good father and they can be great witnesses for you, and they don't want to get involved. Why? Because they're punk-ass cowards. They don't want anybody to dislike them. A video I just posted, this guy in a business suit, I forgot his name, but he said, we don't tell the truth to people. We don't talk about the truth because we want people to like us. The average person, it's got to be in the high 90s, is a sissy coward to say or do anything controversial because they won't be liked, or they'll lose relationships, or it's uncomfortable. I had several friends who wrote declarations for me. And you know what they said? They said, this is crazy. I really feel uncomfortable doing this, but what she's doing to you is wrong. And this is just wrong. And they were doing it by standing on principle. And I appreciate them to death. I had one guy come to court with me, and I'm forever in debt to this guy. Forever. I would have done the same thing for him. I actually kind of did, to be honest with you. I was there for him during a court matter. But he stuck out his neck just to support me. He wasn't even attacking the mother, just to support me. And the mother, her sister, they all went running to our whole community of ex-community of friends, or social network, and destroyed this guy's reputation because he went in and told the truth about me. And that's the risk people run going to court. But why would your own now my family, they had no problem whatsoever. My mother came to court. My sister wanted to kill my baby's mom because my sister had been through 2 boyfriends who got screwed in divorces, and she was sick of women. You know who's more sick of women than guys who get played by women? The guys' new wives or new girlfriends or their mothers. Because those women are not afraid of the women. And my gender is. We're such a bunch of sissy pussies. We're scared of our baby's mom for no reason other than a paranoia that we make up in our own head. Scripture says that A fearful man flees when no fear causes a man to flee when nobody's pursuing him. And it's insane that I've seen this with my own eyes in case after case after case after case. Guys are afraid, I can't act like the father of my kid. I can't pick up my kid. I'm scared. I'm scared. I just had a guy go off of one of my videos. We had a consultation. He withheld his kids from the mother. He had the kids the Thanksgiving Eve and Thanksgiving Day. He's supposed to give the kids back later that night or the next day. And he said, no, I'm going to keep them all weekend. The mother called the cops, freaked out, blew up his phone. Nothing happened to him. And he had a great visit. And now he gets to go to court showing that he had the kids 5 days in a row and it went great. And he's a great candidate to be a custodial parent. And 99.9% of you are scared to do that. Or you'll say, James, how dare you say keep the kid from the mother? The mother has kept the kid from this guy for 4 weeks straight before. What is the harm of him keeping them on a 4-day weekend when most people do that for Thanksgiving? They flip-flop Thanksgiving. The insanity of the punk-ass bitchiness of my gender is insane. I have to suffer through that because over and over and over I have to explain and re-explain to people their rights and common sense and what anybody with balls already knows. So I went through 20 years of suffering through my own family law case. I just had a friend. I actually met this lady. She first reached out to me and called for help and paid for a consultation. And we eventually became friends because now I'm trying to convince her to be a resource for people in a different state. And she hit me up and said, hey, I know somebody from high school who's going through a divorce and she's getting screwed. Can you talk to her? And I'm like, sure. And so this friend of mine actually talked to this lady and helped her write up a motion. I've been trying to tell her that she could do that. And she could be a resource. Like, I deal with people all the time who go through this court stuff. And then they become so good at it. I'm like, do you want to be part of my network? And pretty much 100% of people say, yeah, I'd love to do that. And then don't do it. Or they say no from the beginning because they're so burnt out. So, I went to jail for 8 days. My daughter was traumatized. My baby's mom didn't pick her up. I had to arrange for my daughter to be taken care of while I was in jail. I took better care of my daughter in jail than the mother did outside of jail. And she had moved back to Washington, so she was in Seattle. She could have picked up my daughter, kept my daughter, but she actually didn't even ask about my daughter. And I thoroughly embarrassed the judge in my case about that at a hearing because he never asked how the child was doing. He was only asking, did you hand over because my baby's mom did a contempt on me for not giving her school and medical records. All she had to do was call the school and the medical records facility. It was the same facility she picked for our daughter when she was a baby, or the same medical network. And if I had changed the child's school or medical network, all she had to do was call the old one and they would say, oh, she's over here. We moved the records over there. All she had to do was make 2 phone calls. She didn't even do that. She wanted me in jail because I didn't voluntarily hand over the stuff. So she had a legal right under the law. She had a legal right under our court order. And she had the ability to just call. And then I also gave the mother's attorney the phone numbers for both her last school when she was in middle school. She was transitioning into high school. And then, the more I tell my story, the more different people I could have sued. And the more people, I could do all kinds of videos on my judge. And I just don't have time for it because I'm too busy sifting through 20 or 30 texts or emails a day to find 2 people who actually want to actually get help. And I probably average about a couple consults a day. And people think I'm rich and I'm a hustler. I mean, I should be rich off of this because I'm the only one in the world doing this stuff. But anyway, that's just to show you some of the little bit of suffering that I went through. And I was raising my daughter. I was falsely accused when I didn't have custody. I was falsely accused when I did have custody. I was dragged into court. The mother did contempts against me. When I went to court to modify child support, which takes 2 weeks in Washington, her attorney would turn it into a 3-month war. So, somebody, I'm just making sure I didn't miss any comments. Jake, hey, if I fire my attorney, Do I have to reissue a subpoenas? My witnesses did not get a subpoena for my trial last week. Thankfully, got continued. Well, if your subpoena, see some of this stuff, some of you guys' answers to your questions are kind of clear by the plain wording of stuff. Your subpoena, like let's say your trial was December 10th and it got continued to January 30th. Your subpoena says you are commanded to appear at trial December 10th at the courthouse at this day and time. You're asking me if you need new subpoenas. The subpoenas say they're supposed to show up on December 10th. There is no December 10th court. So yeah, you would have to get a subpoena to subpoena. If you have a party, a Christmas party, and you delay it and say, we're going to celebrate after New Year's, and you don't issue invites to people for the new day and time of the party, they're not going to know where it is, and they're not going to show up. So yeah, you need new subpoenas. But if you have witnesses that are ready to go to court, you don't got to subpoena them. You only got to subpoena the people who don't want to go to court. And you can write up your own subpoenas, or you can motion the court for an order that the clerk sign a subpoena. Attorneys have subpoena power. Really, you should have subpoena power too. They don't say that pro se's have subpoena power, but they don't say that they don't. And your attorney is your representative. So technically, you subpoena somebody to a deposition or to trial. I have guys who issue subpoenas for depositions, or they just do a notice of deposition and conduct their own deposition and grill the crap out of the mother and destroy her credibility. So I want to talk a little bit more about the suffering that people go through. You know, a dad gets blindsided with a restraining order. He goes to court, gets lied about. His attorney says, don't try and fight, play Mr. Nice Guy, because every time I had a guy play Mr. Nice Guy, he got full custody and got a restraining order dropped. I'm lying. They don't say that. They say, just play nice. Just trust me. You know, I just went on a website called on a Facebook page called PAPA, P-A-P-A, People Against Parent Alienation. There used to be another PAPA group, and it was in the Seattle area, called Parents Against Parent Alienation. Another person who just fizzled out and disappeared, like 99. The only group I've seen that's been around for more than a few years was Dads Against Discrimination. They're around for 20, 25 years. And those guys got all burnt out and fizzled out, and that's all dead and gone. And I used to volunteer with them. I used to volunteer with The Other Parent, toprights.org. They're gone. That was a non-custodial parent rights group, non-custodial mothers and fathers. Ray Lautenschlager in Ohio Family Rights. That guy's kind of fizzled out. He used to be at the forefront of father's rights stuff. Just like Eric Carroll, he used to get sexually aroused at being in a photo op with a legislator and loved the attention. But he said some good things, but he also spent all his time to try and get 50-50 laws passed, and he didn't do jack shit. And I called him out on Facebook 10 years ago, and he hates my guts. And he runs around lying to people, saying the only reason I got custody is because I abused the system against my baby's mom, and I took my kid out of state and hid my kid from the baby's mom or something. All this bullcrap that he just made up out of his rear, because he's a hater little bitch. But I've referred people to him because of his knowledge. See, I'm not such a hater. Well, I will hate people so much that I'll sabotage a guy's custody case. There's people that I think are sellout pieces of shit, like Ray Lautenschlager, but he knows so much after being in there. He knows shortcuts that I don't know in Ohio, and I've dealt with people in Ohio a lot. Dang it, I got to talk to somebody in Ohio too that I missed. But there's folks out there, they don't have any resources, anybody on their side, including their own attorney. Their attorney says, just play nice. And the other person's torturing you. They're falsely accusing you. They're alienating your kids. They're brainwashing your kids. They're coaching your kids against you. So now everybody's against you. You're outnumbered. And I know how that is. I've gone to court where it was just me. There's my baby's mom and her sister and her friend and another friend and her coworker. And you hear them heckling me in the background and laughing at me. And I had to endure it. I was triumphant in the end, but this is the stuff that you have to endure. That's why I coach people to make up your mind. I will be suffering. I will be lied about. This is, like gangs, they have gang initiation. Everybody in the gang gets to jump on and beat the snot out of somebody. Okay? You have to go through the fire to get qualified for something. There's hazing that goes on. I don't know if it still goes on. They made it illegal, but for the longest, hazing went on with freshmen and college football teams or rookies and NFL teams. And there's a process you have to go through. If you want to fight, you will be lied about. You will go through suffering. If you have your mind made up, though, I'm about to go through some pain and suffer, just like if you're about to go through training camp, if you're an NFL player. Or just think about the Rocky movies, if you saw the Rocky movies. Like any boxer goes through hell to get to a point. Mike Tyson said, discipline is doing something you hate, but doing it like you love it. Boxers will do 500 push-ups a day. They'll run 10 miles at 4 a.m. They'll eat raw eggs like Rocky did in the movies. And they'll put their body through all kinds of pain to prepare for a moment in time. That's what you're doing in family court. And most people can't get that. And if a guy didn't play football in high school or didn't wrestle in high school or never competed and had an easy life and he's raised by a single mom and he's a simp little bitch, then he's not going to want to do that. And I'm telling them this is what the answer is. And if your kids are worth it, you'll be willing. Everybody loves to talk shit. I'll die for my kids. I'll do anything for my kids. But when it comes to family court, you won't even lift a finger. You'll go in and play Mr. Nice Guy because that's the easy thing to do. And you hope you win brownie points with a radical feminist judge and an abusive system in the Twilight Zone. You think suddenly you'll be able to, like, who negotiates with a terrorist? Who wins a war by playing nice? You go in there, like, think about in Nazi Germany with Hitler. We went into Nazi Germany. We went through France, and there were people that were killed. There was collateral damage. When we bombed Hiroshima and ended the war over there, and Japan surrendered, it took now, that was heinous, and there's a bunch of political stuff behind that. The average war, 9/11, all that stuff, it's not what it appears to be. It's been proven that the Vietnam War was not started by the Vietnam. Our government lied and said in the Gulf of Tonkin they shot at us. It's been proven that was a false flag and they didn't tell the truth. So that being said, I'm using these things as so I know that the stuff, for those of you guys who know what's really going on in the real world, I know all that stuff, but let's just go off with the surface of what we know. Hitler was a horrible dictator, killed a bunch of Jews and all this other stuff, and he did what he did. We went in there and we had to go in and smash him, and we had people die, and we went through war, and we went through the hell, and we destroyed Germany, and then we built it up later. You have to go in and you have to fight the bully and suffer through the collateral damage that comes with it in order to have peace. The good guy has to go in there and go to war. All this stuff about playing Mr. Nice Guy is utter bullshit. If you're following that, you're a stupid, dumbass mother effer. And you don't give a shit about your kids because you know in your head that playing Mr. Nice Guy in a war over your kids while you're being lied about is utter bullshit. And you won't follow your conscience because you're a bitch. You're a coward bitch. And you want to make your attorney happy. And you want to make the mother happy. And you want to make the judge happy. And you're just rolling through like a good little obedient sheep with your mouth shut, being led to the slaughter. And you're saying, one of these days, people are going to recognize that I'm suffering. No, they're not. They don't give a shit about you. You're in an arena with people who hate your guts. You're a prisoner of war in family court. And unless you break out of it and fight it the way that you need to fight it, you will lose. So I'm acknowledging the suffering that you go through. From the beginning where you get blindsided and traumatized, you got PTSD, and now you're off kilter. It's kind of like Red Dawn, where the opening scene, I can't even remember I saw Red Dawn when I was younger. I didn't see the new version. I don't even know how the plot actually went. But all I know is kids are at a school and a bunch of Russians parachute out the sky and World War III is on. That's traumatic. That's what family court is like. And what do those people do? I think they went up into the woods and they hid out and they were ready to fight. You sit there and say, oh, okay, you take me as your prisoner. Here's my hands, cuff me, and I'll stay your prisoner, and I'll be nice while I'm in jail, and I'll kiss your ass, and I'll bow down to everybody, and then I'll jump through the hoops of being a domestic violence perpetrator. I'll get a psych eval, and I'll do all this stuff, and I won't even challenge it because I'm happy to go through with it and appease everybody for violating my constitutional rights. You see how stupid we are? As soon as my daughter's mother went to court and said, James is harassing me, he's trying to get with me, he wants to be with me, it's not about the child, I said, I could care less whether I talk to the mother ever again. Some of you pussies out there would never say that about your baby's mom because you hope to reconcile or you hope to get along with her. You go to war and rescue your child. If the mother wants to reconcile afterward, after you got control of the child, great. You could be a dumbass and start trusting a traitor or a Judas if you want. Now, some people do change. There are miraculous situations where people have gotten back together after an ugly divorce and they can reconcile. I'll never tell anybody get a divorce. That's a covenant between them and God. I'm not touching that. But you should go rescue your kid and get control of your kid. A lot of you pussy-ass bitches out there will say, well, let me please the mother, and then she'll recognize that I still love the kids and I'll be rewarded. She just lied about you and wanted you to go to jail for a crime you didn't commit, lying about you committing domestic violence, calling the cops, or getting a restraining order and restraining you. That is enough to tell your dumbass and for you to wake the hell up and say, my kids are suffering, a kidnapper has taken them and used it and is abusing them. The mother is a child abuser. I don't know if I put this one on, I need to put it up if I haven't. We give the mothers immunity from child abuse, child molestation. They'll bring in a boyfriend who is a sex offender, and we'll sit back like a bunch of pussies. One father's rights group told this dad on a Facebook page. The dad said, I don't want to give my kid back to the baby's mom. My baby's mom's boyfriend is molesting my daughter. This punk-ass faggoty bitch in the Idaho Father's Rights Movement group said, you have to give the kid back, you could go to jail. And I got on there, I said, where's the law that says that? And it took him like 20 minutes, and he went and found the law, and he posted it. And the law had like 4 lines in it. It said custodial interference. If you withhold the child from the other parent, they have custody. It's a gross misdemeanor. You can go to jail. If you do this, blah, 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 this. And the last line said exception, unless you're doing it to protect the safety of the child. So this mother effing sellout, subhuman piece of shit in the Idaho Father's Rights Movement, probably a guy who lost in court. I don't know if it was the administrator of the Facebook page or some dumbass dad. And you mother effers out there who don't follow your conscience. If you don't follow your conscience, everything else out in the world is a lie. You're following a liar like a dumbass. And people hate hearing that from me, but it's the reality. You're the only person who can rescue your kid, and you're not rescuing your kid. If a total stranger kidnapped your kid and the cops aren't looking for him, and you don't get off your ass and look for the kid, you are an utter failure and a subhuman piece of shit of a parent if you don't go looking for your kid. Because everybody in their right mind would follow their conscience. Well, the cops aren't doing it. The detective is not on the case. I'm going to hunt the ends of the earth and look for my kid. So in this Idaho example, the guy just flippantly gave this guy advice, send your kid back to the child molester. And then I said, why the F would you say something stupid like that? He said, because there's a law. I said, where's the law? Don't just vaguely say there's a law. So he brought the law to me. And this stupid ass mother effer did not even read the full law. And it was only 5 sentences. I read every line, and the last line said, unless to protect it. So the dad had the right under the law to keep his kid. And this stupid I wish I could see the mother effing punk ass faggoty bitch's face. This is the father's rights movement. Giving advice to dads to send their kids back to the mother because they have to under the law, and they don't even read the freaking law that they're citing. This is the retardation of my gender. And you guys get mad at me because I'm outraged about this. And you guys get mad at me because I tell guys to grow some balls and stop being like that Idaho Father's Rights Movement page. So I don't know what came of that. Hopefully that dad read my responses. I think I got kicked out of that Facebook page because I'm standing up for justice. And this is what's insane. I'll get kicked out of I'll tell a guy, why aren't you doing contempt? I want contempt. My lawyer said I can't. Well, go do it anyway. Fire your lawyer. And I'm being hostile because I'm telling them the answer. This is insane. This is the type of stuff that I have to suffer. I have to watch fathers' rights groups give bad advice or give no hope. I didn't finish my point about Eric Carroll of Dad Talk Today. I DM'd that guy and I said, why don't you have some winning stories? Like, All you do is have guys who lost in court, and all you're doing is feeding the hopelessness. Why don't you have some guys with some testimonials of winning? He blocked me just for asking him that. Eric Carroll is a fruity, faggoty, punk-ass bitch. And his ex-wife, now she could be lying, she has the whole page dedicated to what a narcissist he is. She could be lying about him. She could be telling the truth. But he's definitely a sociopath where he doesn't give a shit about his followers because he won't give his followers any hope. He's become popular feeding off. Now, I don't know if it's intentional or subconscious, but he's becoming popular by feeding off of the pain and suffering of other dads. I don't know if he makes money doing what he's doing. I assume he does, at least through advertising, maybe donations. But he doesn't want to give people answers and help them win. I don't know why. Other than he's a fruity, faggoty little bitch. And I'm being nice when I say this stuff. I hate when a person in a place of leadership, it starts with like my baby's mom. I told you my baby's mom's sister. She was a leader in our church. She used to talk all this spiritual smack. And then when it came to a controversial issue or something that was uncomfortable for her, she was hurt that her sister got pregnant. And I seduced her in my web of seduction and embarrassed the family. But see, the two fat, ugly sisters and also the grandma on that side, they don't have men. They don't have boyfriends. No men want them. Although their mom was able to have two babies' dads, and she went through her slut phase, they're not allowed to. And so there's jealousy and all this stuff combined in there. But she was a leader in our church. I hate when leaders try, and I found out later that she was bullying a lot of the younger women in our church. I hate when leaders or somebody who has knowledge misleads other people. I hate it. You have knowledge and power and influence, and you use it wrong and lead people astray. I hate your guts. I'm sitting here, I have knowledge on how to win, and I tell it to people, and it's uncomfortable, and it makes me unpopular in some venues. I probably have more people who hate me than love me. But I've helped thousands of people win in court. Do you think I give a shit about haters who lost in court, who are losers and pathetic parents? And the biggest people who hate me are the lawyers who know about me. I have some lawyers who love me. There's only a few of them. Some lawyers that I've worked with, some lawyers I sent my clients with, and I used to do paperwork, file motions, and write the stuff, and the attorney would appear on their behalf, and they would prove my paperwork, so I'm acting like a paralegal under them, but they allowed me to take charge. The short period of time in my case, later on, when my baby's mom dragged me in court for relocation, I moved 30 miles from Seattle to Tacoma, 30 minutes away. She lived in LA and she objected to me moving and dragged me in court for a year and a half. There's a period of time I had an attorney. He let me do all the paper and all that stuff because I was afraid to go to trial by myself. And then I realized, oh my God, I could do this myself too. I had one attorney, he totally sucked. I got rid of him. And then I got this guy, and he was a godsend for a moment because he's one of the 3 attorneys out of thousands that I've seen that I like. I've liked, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 attorneys I've liked out of thousands. That's why I knock attorneys. And I tell people you got a 1 in 1,000 chance of getting a good attorney. And that's really an actual number. That's a legitimate guess. So anyway, I was going to focus on suffering, but one thing led to another and stuff that I did. But this most recent video I did on TikTok, I got to get on YouTube if you haven't seen it, where we give mothers immunity. You wouldn't let a total stranger or a parents in the neighborhood, your kids go to a slumber party and the dad molests your kids, or the dad beats up the wife in front of the kids, or the dad's watching porn in front of your kids, or they're drinking and partying. You wouldn't let your kid ever go back to that person, but you'll let the mother do it. Your baby's mom will do it all day long. You give her immunity from crimes against your children. Why? Because we're pussies. We wouldn't tolerate that with a total stranger, but we'll tolerate it with our baby's mom. JD said, are we live? Yes, we're live. That's why that live button is up. So I answered the one about subpoenas. Chrissy Fields. Okay. I actually have a high school friend that was a good friend of my sister who's passed away. Her name's Christina Fields. I'm listening from India and I have no idea what's going on, but I pray to God that you get a lot of support. What's going on is we're trying to fight for parents to have equal rights and access to their kids, and for alienating child abusing parents to get in trouble. Are we live? Right now, I suffer from anxiety attack because of that witch. Understandable. Who played the nice guy? I don't know who you're talking about. Oh, who was playing the nice guy? Millions of dads, they go to court playing the nice guy. Their attorney says, don't attack the mother. She's falsely accusing you of domestic violence and child abuse, but don't attack her as a liar. That'll make you look bad. That's the strategy of the vast majority of attorneys. And it screws guys over because then they go to... This is what happens. And I got to do a video on this too. I just thought of this. The attorneys get a big fat retainer. I have a video on this about how they milk you for all you got and lather, rinse, repeat. Attorneys get a big fat retainer, $5,000, $10,000. They go to court and they maybe fight the first hearing. You get every other weekend. You got to go through parenting classes, psychological evaluation, a guardian ad litem, and they say, trust the process. Then you come out of the process and they say, you're a horrible parent. You should have supervised visitation. And then now it's time to go to mediation as you're getting close to trial. Your attorney goes to mediation and makes $1,000 sitting there watching and talking and yakking away about your rights and doing nothing but collecting money from you. Attorneys want to get that big retainer, maybe put effort in the first time around, then go to mediation and sit, and hopefully you settle. And then you say, I don't want to take this deal. I don't want to be every other weekend parent. I'm a great parent. I should have 50-50. Your attorney says, you'll never get that at trial. If you want to go to trial, then give me $20,000. I'm not, you better sign this or I'm going to quit. Because the attorney never intended on going to trial. 95% of cases never go to trial. You should want to take your case to trial. I have this all over. This is a theme all throughout my YouTube page. And dumbasses watch my YouTube page and don't pay attention and don't get this until a week before trial, their attorney pulls out and now they're calling me saying, I need to learn how to do everything. And they didn't learn how to do everything while they're watching my videos along the way. It went through one ear and out the other. Or they didn't listen to retain stuff. Or they were scared to apply it. And now your back's against the wall and you're cornered. There's still hope. I've had people that I prepared for trial the week before trial, but you better get your ass in gear and grow some balls and stop being a punk-ass sissy little bitch. But the attorneys, 5,000, just think about it. If you're an attorney and you know how to make money with no effort at all, or little effort, you can make $5,000 retainer up front. You sit around, let the guardian ad litem take over. Think about this. The attorneys are supposed to be protecting your interests, and they have you go interview with the guardian ad litem and tell them all kinds of stuff they could use against you. A defense attorney will tell a prosecutor, don't talk to my client without me being in the room. Or the police, don't talk to my client without me being in the room. But your attorney will let you talk to a psychologist or guardian ad litem without them being there. That's insane. They're not even advocating for you. But then when it comes time for mediation, $200, $300 an hour. I worked at McKinley Irvin. They had a deal with the biggest mediator in Seattle, a bunch of scam artists. And I have a video on my YouTube channel in the section about attorneys. There's a guy named Besk. He made a ruling. He made a ruling against a dad. He made a ruling against the dad because the dad, well, they went to, was it arbitration? But, oh, he made a ruling against the dad who was a good dad, and the mom had a felon boyfriend, and this dad got screwed. So I did a video on this guy named Larry Besk. He's a mediator who charges like $300-400 an hour. I think it was like $250 an hour is a $400 minimum. So you go and spend $400, $500, $800. You pay your attorney. So everybody's sitting around just talking about what they could settle on. I have a video talking about how mediation is a scam. So everybody sits around and just talks and yaks about what you should get and what you shouldn't get. If you could agree and settle with your baby's mom at mediation, just call them up and say, hey, what do you want to settle on? Okay, draft the paperwork, boom. But you got to go to mediation and put on a show and talk for 8 hours. And then you guys don't settle on anything. If you can't settle on anything, then why did you go to mediation in the first place? If you can't settle, why are you paying a mediator and the attorneys thousands of dollars for you to not settle? Because the attorneys have it set up and you guys are so freaking stupid you fall for it. Here's $5,000. Go to a court hearing. I get royally screwed. They don't tell you you have a chance to do reconsideration and fix it because that's too much work and effort on their part. They'd rather milk nickel and dime you and milk it, email you, talk to you, email, phone calls, go to the office, dress up in a suit and tie. Nowadays, everybody's working from home. They're laying in bed doing a Zoom call with you, and they got a suit on top and they're wearing shorts and flip-flops, below. And they're milking you. And then you're out of a retainer. You need another $3,000 to go to mediation. And then during mediation, they say, you're going to get screwed at trial. I thought you were going to fight for 50-50. Well, now the guardian ad litem and all these people are against you. Well, you told me to go with them and trust the process. And then, so they milked you for $5, $10, $20, $15, $20,000. And now they're on to the next one. And they don't have to lift a damn finger because everybody's a brainless, dumbass sheep that follows along with this stupid shit. And you don't listen to your conscience. I've had guys who called me up and said, I told my lawyer to F off. You're going to fight for me or you're going to quit, or I fired them. And then they call me because they have balls and they follow their conscience. Your conscience speaks to you. You know when something doesn't sit right with you. But if you don't have the balls to speak up for yourself, you will get financially raped and creamed and destroyed, and you won't have a relationship with your kids. I was willing to be uncomfortable and hurt other people's feelings. Like my baby's mom, she came to court saying, James this and James that. I said, I can care less whether I talk to this witch ever again. I just want to be an involved father. That ruined her entire argument when she tried to get a restraining order. The judge was on my side and said, he just wants to be a father. He's not even trying to call to talk to you. He's seen how the child is. Just now I hurt her feelings too. And she was hurt for a few years because she called me a few years later. The only time we talked in 20 years was for a small 1-week window. And she said, you hurt me with that Mary girl. Remember I told you there was me and Sedaris and Chemo Evans and his wife, Mary Beth Solscheid Evans, who worked for Washington State Employees Credit Union. And they didn't get her in trouble. They investigated her. And after they investigated her, then she tried to get a restraining order against me for ruining her career because she went through my bank account. But this chick over here, my baby's mom, said, James, you hurt me by dating that chick. She's still mad 5 years later. Anyway, that's enough of that rant. As a Nigerian living in the U.S., you're 100% right. I've been following you for a long time. I don't give up on my kids. Their mom is a traitor. I owe court costs because of my kids right now. You can always try and motion and change that depending on your situation. Judge says mom needs permission from father. So JD says, judge says mom needs permission from the father to travel overseas. So mom's attorney gets a BS restraining order and then takes daughter out of the country and files a move away from overseas. Crazy. There's all kinds of stuff that could have been done about that and argued in court. I don't know if you did that or not, but there's all kinds of arguments against that BS. And you should have been going for full custody from the beginning. If you didn't, that was your first mistake. If you didn't do a motion to quash the restraining order, that was your second mistake. If you didn't do a deposition on the mother, that's your third mistake. If you didn't cite the science and all the data in court about the child being away from the father and how that's automatically dangerous to the child, that's your fourth mistake. And I'm sure there's 5 or 10 others that I could be bringing up. That's just right off the cuff. Son of the Most High says, never gave my ex space at all. She wants me to shut up and just pay child support. That the average woman, all they care about is money. The child is a welfare ticket. You know what's crazy to me is that I see videos, and it's talked about a lot in the black community because everybody loves talking about the higher rate of absent fathers in the black community. And, because there's income disparities, there's criminality disparities in the black community, in the inner cities particularly. And it can almost all be rooted. No matter what your race is, if you get married, if you have a high school degree and you only have kids after you get married, you have a 95% chance to never be in poverty. And one of the greatest predictors of how well people do in life is if they're in a married family, how well, the parents do success-wise. They're in a married family, and the kids grow up in that structured family and stay in it. Now, there's always tragedies. You have a school shooter and this, that. You have rare exceptions. But Those exceptions go up 1,000 times more when you have a single mom who's not a leader of a family, who's not capable of leading and protecting, except in some cases where you got a narcissistic father. But men were created to be the protector. That's why all the child molestation comes through a single mom and letting a guy molest their kids. The safest place for a father was for a child with a biological father. When a mother tries to be the captain of the ship, the quarterback, the leader, it fails. She's not made to do that. She's made to be a helpmate. That's God's order. If you don't like me saying that, that's nature's order. And you're freaking retarded and you're an anti-science, you're a science denier. So that being said, men are bigger and stronger than women. If somebody breaks into the house, do you hide behind the wife or do you hide behind the husband? So any women who don't like that, you can shut the F up. Unless you want to rush to the burglar that breaks in the house and you want to jump on him and stomp him and fight him while the dad goes and hides with the children in the attic or the basement. Do you really want to do that? No, nobody would ever say that. So you're not the protector of the family. So there's a superior role of the father, a protector and a leader, and you are a helpmate. You're not a slave. Only radical feminism tells you that. And who are the radical feminists? Butch, ugly, fat, nasty women who could never get a man, who got molested by their dad, and half of them are now lesbians. You see how stupid and backward society is? The average feminine, down-to-earth female does not want to run a family. She wants to play her role, and the man wants to play his role. And when they play their role together and they respect each other's role, everything's great. I know some great, like, dudes talk about how marriage is dead and don't marry. I'm not with men going their own way. I understand how they got there, but half of those guys were thirsty little bitches who were desperate for marriage because they needed sex every day desperately, or they needed some companionship, or they're alone. And the trek of a man is a lonely road in life because you're the leader and you're out front and you can't look to anybody but God yourself sometimes. That's too bad. That's the role of a man, though. But the men going their own way. I understand how they got there because women destroy. And women, I mean, when back in the day, when there was a war and it was a stalemate or a quagmire and nobody could get anywhere, what do they do sometimes? They'll send a woman to seduce the man or seduce the king over there or something. You know, you see it in the James Bond movies. They're trying to get James Bond. They send a spy to seduce him. Anyway. Let's see. Never gave my ex a space at all. She wants me to shut up and just pay. Okay, I was reading that. What a traitor. I made sure I traveled to New Jersey from New York to file contempt. I don't let it slide now. Good. Everybody should do contempt the first day somebody violates something. You violate a court order, which is a contract and agreement on your visitation, your custody, your possessions, and they violate that. If your boss doesn't give you a full paycheck or they come up short on your paycheck, what do? Do you tolerate it for years? No, you immediately go to human resources and say, you guys shorted me on my check. How come you don't go to court and say, you shorted me on my time with my kid that I'll never get back? You'll do it instantly for money. See what a bunch of dumbass sellouts we are? But when it comes to our kids, who we would die for, I'll kill for my kid, I'll die for my kid. You get your kid taken away. I know guys who haven't seen their kids for months and they got court order visitation. I talked to a guy, he hadn't seen his kid for a year, and he had court order visitation and he could pick him up from school, and the mother said, no, you're not going to see your kid. And I said, why don't you just go to the school and pick him up? And he said, can I do that? This dumbass mother freaking airhead said, can I follow the court order and get my kid? He's so brainwashed, he's such a henpecked little bitch that he didn't think he could even follow the court order. He thought her word supersedes a court order. This is what the hell is going on in this world. This is why I tell guys, grow some balls. And if they don't like what I'm saying, they are losers who will always lose and never get it. Now, there's guys who've been pussies and punks, and I was a beta most of my life. I let women disrespect me. I let it roll off because if I didn't have a kid, then it didn't even bother me. I didn't care what anybody thought of me, especially some of the fat, ugly chicks who did that. You know, like I said, I was in this little social network of friends and people that I thought were like considered family, my church community, all that stuff. And a lot of them were a bunch of bitter women who couldn't get a man. and they were jealous of the pretty women in our church. All the stuff I saw later, because I always just believe the best in people. And I was one of the nice guys in my church. We had a bunch of alpha football players that played at University of Washington in our church. And some of the women were kind of intimidated. They respected the guys and they wouldn't go there. But I was a nice guy. So they would take advantage of me sometimes or ask me to do stuff. And they asked me to do it again and again. I kind of did it. But once somebody tried to take advantage of me and destroy my life with my kid, then the alpha male came out. Then Simba came out after he confronted his father, Mufasa, in the sky and said, go back and remember who you are and go take your kingdom back. Anyway, I forgot if I was getting to a point there. Juan, James, salute from New York. Show these guys how to fight, the lawyers, judges, and attorneys for your child. They're all against you. Yep. My second day of trial completed today. Cool. I'm literally drafting subpoenas in response. Okay. So pro Tim Roy. I don't know. Supro Tim Roy. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I'm saying that. Court doesn't ask the child what's his or her wish or the opinion or what they went through. Most courts actually do that, either through a guardian ad litem. Sometimes the courts will interview a child in chambers, or they'll have a lawyer for the child. But a lot of those people lie. If you haven't looked at your state's factors in the law for determining custody, almost every law there says that they have to consider the wishes of the child. If they're not doing that in your case, then you need to call the court out for not following the law. All these things to deplete all your life savings in just a few months. That's what I said at the beginning of this video. That's part of the suffering that comes with this, is that you build a little empire, you build a little savings, you build your little kingdom, your family, and then women destroy it in a single bound. The day she filed to move my kids to South Carolina from New Jersey, I quickly opposed it and immediately filed for full custody. Good for you. Now the judge gave me full custody last week. Wow. Nice. Last month, my 7-year-old said in the bus on our way home for a weekend that she wished mommy dies. Wow, that's not good. I was shocked but not surprised. The judge gave me full custody. Well, in a situation like that, you never want a kid to feel that way unless they abuse the kids or they see what's going on. What I used to tell my daughter, and I probably overdid it. I used to have pictures of my baby's mom around the house with my daughter the few times she had a visit because I wanted to maintain that bond and facilitate it. And it kind of backfired because it made her hope too much in her mother and it hurt her more. I should have just let the deadbeat be a deadbeat. But when my daughter would cry and say, how come mommy doesn't want me? How come this and that? And then I would say, we need to pray for mommy. She's sick. She has something wrong with her heart. And I didn't bash her and say she's wicked and evil, but, I came from a compassionate side, like mommy has something wrong with her. And I tried to, my daughter started crying and saying stuff like that when she was 7 or 8. And, what do you even do with that? What do you even say? Unless God gives you the exact words, your words are going to fail that child. And so I just tried to do the right thing and say, mommy has a problem and we need to pray for her to get better. There's something wrong with her heart. She's got a little sickness or something. I can't remember. I said something about sick in her heart and stuff like that. But I don't condone, allowing that to go on. But that's your kid. You know what's best for your kid. So since that came up, I just wanted to clarify, whoever's watching here, think I'm an asshole and I approve of that stuff. No, that's just sad. So, when I was a kid, I grew up in an alcoholic family. My dad's been clean and sober for decades, but, he's a different man when he was drunk. And so my mother's parents, my grandparents, we would visit them in the summer. And they would interrogate us. Do you like your father? What about your father? This and that. And even though my dad was a drunk, and even though he had argued with my mom and stuff, he was still my dad. And I remember when I was like 10 years old, I hated being interrogated like that. I hated being put in the middle of that. Like, you hope your parents get. There's kids are forgiving of a lot of stuff. I just talked to a dad. His kid got assaulted by the mom, and the dad is finally getting a restraining order. He's finally growing some balls and getting on the offensive. He should have done it years ago. But now that her violence isn't just affecting him or her family, she's been violent toward her own family. Now she's violent toward the kid. Now he wants to do something. But the kid misses his mom and wants to see his mom, because kids are very forgiving of that stuff. They just want a healthy relationship, and they don't understand, the dangers and the ramifications of that. So I remember as a kid not wanting to be in the middle of that. And that's why I say, it's tough in a situation like my baby's mom abandoned my daughter. And now that she's moved back to Seattle, she'll just visit her and talk. You would think that she would do everything in her power to make up for it. But she doesn't do that. My daughter still calls upon me. And I'll ask her, did you reach out to your mom? Maybe me and your mom can split it and pitch in. Mom's like, I don't got it. I can't really help. I got other stuff. Like that deadbeat dad that you see in the movies or on TV. There's I never used to really like or even regularly watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but there's a famous scene where Will Smith, his real dad, comes and visits him, and then he's like, okay, I got to go, son. And he thought they were going to spend a lot of time together, and then Will Smith had a meltdown about it. There's a famous episode. I've seen that part of that, and it's moving. It's part of it. It's a little cheesy and over the top, but it's still moving because you see that there are kids who feel like that. But that's all we see is the deadbeat dad, and I got a deadbeat absent mother. The deadbeat usually refers to child support. People get it mixed up and say an abandoner is a deadbeat. The deadbeat also abandons their financial obligation. And I think child support is a good idea when you have an abandoning parent. Outside of that, it's totally unconstitutional, period. It's really my problem that I had a kid with a crazy bitch. And she put up a good front because she was down to earth and cool, hanging out with the guys, watching the football game. She's a great cook. She's the one pretty woman out of the family of Butch Dykes. Man haters. Yvonne Barber, fat, ugly chicks who never had a man. Literally never had a boyfriend until their 30s. And the grandmother, old and washed up. So, and there's nothing wrong being old, fat, and ugly. I'm there. But I don't go around, projecting my insecurities on people and saying, oh, you can't, telling my daughter, oh, you can't be with somebody because I'm miserable or whatever. I don't do that. Men don't do that in general. That's a woman thing. And that's why the average woman hates women. This is my theory. God made women to be a helpmate. Their greatest desire is for childbearing and to have a man that's secure and stable and protective. And have the normal women. Outside of that, women are just roaming around in the desert, lost in life, and they just get mad at everybody that has that happy niche and place in life. And that's why feminists shit on mothers who are stay-at-home moms, because they're living their dream. My high school sweetheart was a stay-at-home mom. She actually got mocked by her friends who were teachers and lawyers and stuff, but she loved doing what she was doing. And it was crazy that even her good friends kind of made jokes about it. But what she did was great, and it was admirable, and she loved doing it. And then at the end of your life, you're going to say, man, I wish I would have put in more billable hours at the office as a lawyer. I wish I would have tutored more as a teacher. Or you're going to say, I wish I would have reconciled with my father. I wish I would have reconciled with my husband. I wish I had spent more time with my kids. The world is so backwards. Friggin' feminists are just like women will destroy a family. Feminists will destroy an entire country. And everything. Our laws in Washington just changed on the domestic violence laws. It used to be RCW 26.50. Now it's RCW 7.105. That statute talks about domestic violence includes coercive control. Coercive control means if you're doing anything or you're talking to other people and it ruins the woman's reputation or causes her to not pay rent or cause all these things that you have these psychic powers of control over a woman because she just says what you did caused her to suffer, and all this stuff that's impossible for a man to control unless he's a husband and sets her up. All these things that are impossible for a man to control, like coercive control. What is that? Like, it's domestic violence for you to have control over a woman, and it's coercive, and it causes her to do stuff like that. The stuff that and feminists came up with that emotional basket case bullcrap. And we have a push in our laws where feminist groups are saying we need to get rid of this idea that women lie in family court about guys being abusive to get leverage in custody cases. It's documented by attorneys that women do that, and attorneys admit that other attorneys lie about that. And feminist groups in the legislature in Washington are saying we need to attack this lie. We need to expose and destroy this lie that women will abuse the restraining order system to get control of kids. Anyway, do you think the laws are biased? No, the laws are great. The problem is people don't read them. No, Ray Lautenschlager of Ohio Family Court, or that pop-up, people against parent alienation. All I was going to say about that, I was on a Facebook group, people against parent alienation. 100% of the dads were in there saying the system sucks. I spent $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. After you spent $5,000, you got totally screwed. Why the F would you spend another $5,000 on a service that doesn't work? Why would you spend 10 more, 50 more, 100,000 more? Why didn't you grow some balls and use some common sense God gave a monkey and say, there must be something else out here. This isn't working. If you go to a tranny shop or transmission shop and get your transmission overhauled or get a new transmission, and you go out and drive and your car slips or gets stuck in gear or some problem and getting out of gear or whatever, you would go back and say, hey, you need to fix this. It's still screwed. And they say, well, you need to give us another $2,500. You'd be like, bullshit. You're going to fix this for free. I already paid in full. But now with the family law attorney, you dumbasses out there will say, oh, I got totally screwed. Let me give you another $5,000. Oh, I got screwed again. Let me give you another $5,000. Oh, it's worse. Now I'm on supervised visitation when I had every other weekend. Let me give you another $5,000. You could have at least lost for free. You could have walked into court with two hands tied behind your back, blindfolded, and gotten every other weekend or supervised visitation. This is what the F is wrong with my gender. The whole page was filled on this comment of all these loser stories. A couple dads said they had to fight years and spend $50,000, $70,000 and brag that they got custody. And then I went in the comments and said, I got full custody of my daughter 7 months old without an attorney because I grew a conscience. And I said, I'm not going to hire an attorney for $5,000 who says I'll get every other weekend when I live 3 blocks away from the mother and I work at night. I told Goldberg and Jones, who I did a video of on my YouTube channel, exposing them, divorce lawyers for men. They told me you'll get every other weekend. I said, wait a minute, I work at night and I live 3 blocks from the mother. Before she goes to work, she could drive by, drop off my daughter. I have a roommate. I sub-rent a split-level home from a buddy of mine, married family. They live upstairs, I live downstairs. We can have an order that he answers the door. She doesn't have to see me. They said you'll probably still get every other weekend. So I'm available to be with my kid, and these dumbass mother effers from Goldberg and Jones in Seattle, these sellout subhuman piece of shit faggots, they're saying I won't get. Why would I pay $5,000 to get every other weekend when I should get more? I hung up the phone. Most of you pussy ass bitches would say, oh, whatever you say, you're the lawyer, you're the expert, because you don't follow your conscience. So Chris is talking about subpoena ducis tecum. You know, ducis tecum means to bring materials. If you subpoena somebody to a deposition or trial, that's the person coming. Ducis tecum is to bring materials. So now you could do a subpoena ducis tecum to a deposition and they have to bring financials or materials or things like that. So that's what the ducis tecum, I actually just looked that up today. I've never looked it up before. It means bring with you. I knew what it does, but I never knew the exact Latin translation, but it means that you're subpoenaed to bring this with you. When you come to the deposition or whatever, then you do that. Do you think the laws are biased? No. The laws say best interest of the child. The law says when a parent alienates, they should not have custody. When a parent has drugs or alcohol. When a parent abuses a conflict. Florida, 61.133. Which parent is more willing to facilitate a relationship with the other parent? An alienating parent is not that person, so they flunked that, so you should have custody. Actually, Florida is a presumption 50-50 custody, but That doesn't do shit because a woman can come to court and lie. I know women getting screwed in Florida. I know guys getting screwed in Florida, not getting that 50-50 presumption. In Washington State, if somebody abuses the use of conflict, if somebody has an emotional impairment, they can put restrictions on that parent. If somebody has a history of violence or domestic violence or child abuse, emotional or psychological, they have to put restrictions on that parent. That is an unbiased law, whoever does that. The problem is the judges have bias. Think about the Jim Crow South. Can a black man walk into the Alabama courts in the 1950s and get a fair trial? No. Why not? The Constitution says he's equally has a right to due process. What's the problem? It's not the law. It's not the Constitution's the law of the land. It's not the law. It's not the rules of procedure. It's the judge who has the bias and ignores the law. This is where you guys get it twisted. You think the laws are bad, and then we have groups like Eric Carroll from Dad Talk Today. The laws need to change. Papa, the laws need to change. Parents of alienated kids, the laws need to change. You stupid, dumbass mother effers. Now, I'm not talking about the person who questioned that, but these dumbass mother effers got a whole campaign making thousands of dollars in donations, going to court, going to the legislature to change the laws. And the laws already say the best interest of the child. What's the best interest of the child? Both parents. If anybody with half a brain that God gave a monkey exercised and fired off a few brain cells, you would go to court and argue. The best interest of the child, of course, Your Honor, is to be in a married, intact family. Kids suffer with divorce. They can't stand a broken family because kids want stability in family. My daughter was saying, I wish you could marry mommy, and she had never seen us together. It's a God-given natured thing for kids to want the stability of a family because that's God's order. Just like you have a diesel truck, it needs diesel fuel, not regular gas. Or a regular gas vehicle does not get diesel fuel or you ruin the engine. I don't know all the repercussions and the ins and outs and stuff like that, but we know that when you have something designed a certain way, if you put the wrong ingredient or you use it wrong, it breaks or it screws up. The growing up phase of a child is meant and created to be within a family. If they don't have that, that falls short. And now they can overcome that, and there's overcoming stories. But they're exponentially at risk for all these problems. So the best interest of a child is an intact family with both parents. If you separate that, what's the next best thing? Second grade math, 50-50. You want to keep the family as intact as possible so the children see both parents. Only numbnut, idiot, bigoted, anti-father, radical feminist, psychotic judges think it's okay for a dad to be an every other weekend visitor as if he was in prison getting conjugal visits with the mom and seeing the kids. You got to explain this to the judge. But my pussy-ass, bitch-made, fruity gay boy, coward gender doesn't bring this up in court because you're worried it's going to hurt the judge's feelings for you to tell them the truth. So you're your own worst enemy. And then your punk-ass bitch attorney doesn't say anything like that either. Because they come out of law school and they're told, don't say this, say that, don't piss off the judge, worry about this. How can the judge be pissed off about you arguing in court? They used to be a lawyer. The job is for you to zealously advocate for your client. They're supposed to look at the law and interpret it. Why would they get their feelings hurt? We live off of bitch-made lies in court, and then we operate off of that. The law, go read the laws in your state. I have links to most of them, or not most of them, probably half of the states, 20, 25 states. I have links to the laws in each state. Read the laws. They're not biased. Some laws say, like Ohio says under, what is it, 3109.04 or something. Ohio says there should be no presumption in favor of either gender. South Carolina says that. South Carolina got rid of the presumption of, if you Google South Carolina annotated best interest of child factors law, it says the tender years doctrine has been removed. That's a presumption to mothers. There is no bias in the law. It says when a parent is a good parent, they should have access to the kids. California Family Code 3020B. It's the public policy of California for parents to have frequent and continuing contact. Frequent and continuing contact is a theme in a lot of states. I was just looking at another state today that said that. Or maybe it was yesterday. Frequent and continuing contact. Who was that? That was... in Washington, RCW 269002. The best interest of the child is normally served when the existing pattern of interaction continues, unless to protect the child from some danger. What's the existing pattern interaction? Both parents had 100% access. What's the next best thing? 50-50. But nobody goes in there and argues this stuff. This is why I tell people to say this stuff, and then they don't say it, and they come back to me and say I got creamed. Did you say what I told you to say in our appointment? No. Then what the if you go to a trainer and they say cut back 1,000 calories, walk for an hour every day, and do this lifting routine 3 days a week, and you come back and you're fatter than you were last time. And they say, did you do the walking? No. Did you do the weightlifting? Well, I went there a couple times in the past 6 months. Did you cut back your calories? No, I ate more. And you're surprised that you're still fat? My gender's so effing stupid that they don't go in and argue the stuff and look at the law and argue the science and argue the obvious because they're scared that that'll look too aggressive because they think the judge is a sensitive little bitch up there who's thin-skinned and says, oh my God, I can't believe you said fathers should have custody. That hurts my feelings. You see how freaking stupid your dumbass lawyer is? And you guys pay those guys $400 an hour. And I have another part of the suffering I deal with is I show you my winning court orders. And I talk about stuff and I show you testimonials. And if you look in the comments on YouTube or on TikTok, James helped me get 50-50. I just got my kids for Thanksgiving weekend. I was scared to do it, but James was telling me how to do it. And I went and did it and nothing happened and everything was great. Testimony after testimony. And I still got hater bitch guys. And it's only a few. But I have to go through, guys. Oh, can I represent myself? What the F do you think I'm doing here? I represented myself and destroyed a guardian litem, a 17-year experienced attorney, when I had no idea what I was doing. Then the mother got another attorney with 40 years experience. I destroyed him in the Court of Appeals twice. And I'm sitting here telling you I did it all by myself. And you're sitting there saying, can I do that? What the F do you think I'm doing here? When I talk about 1,000 other guys who've done it. So I have to talk to people and reintroduce them to stuff that they saw me talk about. They've seen my winning orders, and they're so scared, and they're such henpecked little simp bitches that they need a bunch of male affirmation from me to say, yeah, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And if they don't feel a surge of Superman-like energy, then they think they can't do it. This is a choice. I don't feel like fighting for my kids. I'm going to fight for my kids. I don't feel like reading court papers. I have to read court papers to respond. I don't feel like getting on the offensive. I don't feel like sacrificing my time. I feel like going to the pub and watching Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football and Saturday college football and Sunday football and Sunday Night Football like I always do to escape the madness of the everyday grind. And I want to keep doing that. You don't have a choice, dumbass. You had kids with a crazy bitch. It's time for you to grow some balls and set aside your life and sacrifice. All kind of videos on TikTok. Watch a David Goggins video. Don't listen to me. Watch a David Goggins video. Was abused by his stepdad. When he was younger, he was only the only black kid in his neighborhood. He said the Klan came by and threatened to kill him, and other kids at the school threatened to kill him. He had a learning disability. He had to study for 2 hours for every 5 minutes that other kids studied. He was 100 pounds overweight. He went into the Marine. He became a Navy SEAL. Did like 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row of back-to-back marathons every weekend. Some people say he called him the baddest man on the planet. And this is what he says, I had the same problem you did. When I was younger, I had self-esteem problems, or I was fat, and I was like, I can't do this. I'm struggling. I had all these things that I'm glorifying in my head, and I'm painting a picture why I can't do it. He said, I finally figured out what it was. I was in the same position you guys are out there that struggle to overcome and change your life and stuff like that. I finally figured out what it was. I realized I was just being a bitch. Stay hard. And that's his little moniker. Stay hard. Stay tough. Doesn't matter what comes your way in life and what you're going through. We're all going to suffer in some way or another in life. You got to push through it. I suffered through somebody who actually played me a couple years ago. This chick totally played me. I was friends with her for 10 years. I believed all her sob stories. She had real, actual physical problems, and because supposedly her ex-husband's wife beat her up, and she got stomped. But she started the fight, and she got what was coming to her, and she turned out to be a child abuser, and she slept with multiple guys behind my back. I was a dumbass because I believe the stories. The first and last time in my life, I played Captain Save-A-Ho. And I felt sorry for her because she was a great actress and had this sob story for 10 years. I never engaged with her. And then we started dating and stuff. And like one pastor once said that the three things a man wants in life is an adventure to live, a battle to fight, and a damsel in distress to rescue. And you see that as a theme in Disney movies, in Hollywood, romantic or epic movies. You see a guy saving a damsel in distress. You see him living an adventurous life. You see him going to war. And so I got played and used up. And so I had to get on the offensive and fight through the pain of being hurt because I did care about her. At first, I cared about her as a friend, and then I cared about her as an intimate partner. And then the whole thing was fake. And so I had to deal with the shock of, and then I studied narcissism, narcissistic abuse, and stuff like that. And it's actually a good thing that I went through that. Now I can empathize with my clients who've gone through narcissistic abuse. And now I understand that stuff. And so I got a domestic violence protection order against her. And she tried to get 4 against me, and she went to court, and I destroyed her. So I have a record of destroying multiple protection orders from 3 different women over the course of, 21 years. I once posted about that, and someone said, well, you need a better choice of women or go get a blow-up doll. You stupid mother effers. I've had great relationships with women in between. Everybody plays the fool, like that Aaron Neville song. You get played once or twice in your life. I'm par for the course. There's probably 3 different women that I've dated that I could have married and would have worked out okay. But I had too much going on with this, my daughter, dealing with my daughter's abandonment issues. And, I might have made a mistake with one woman who had a daughter, would have been good for my daughter. So that's the one regret I have about missing out on a marriage. Outside of that, it is what it is. I don't mind being single or alone. I got options like any man does who's got his shit together. It's funny. It's funny because Andrew Tate and Kevin Samuels, those guys are right. When women get past their wall, or they get past 30, 35, whatever, they don't have that much options unless they want to be a hoe and, get thirsty dudes after them. The OnlyFans, they got fat, ugly chicks or people selling farts and feet. So there's always going to be a market. There's always going to be some subhuman piece of shit guys that anybody can get. The chick that I dated, she talked shit after we broke up, and she's like, you're pathetic, blah, blah, and talking shit to me and talking about all the dudes that are in her DMs and stuff, because I found out that she dated some other people. Then she flipped it on me because she was doing the narcissistic defensive thing because I got her exposed. Well, her own family, I found out everybody in her family thinks she's nuts. Everybody in her community thinks she's nuts. Then she got kicked out of her apartment because after I broke up with her, she didn't pay her 10% of rent that she gets from welfare. And then she went back to her boyfriend that she said might have molested her daughter and beat her up and has felonies for abusing women and restraining orders for abusing women. And she went back to that dude. So, I'm embarrassed that I dated a loser hoe. She put up a good front, but as soon as I realized what a loser prostitute of a hoe and actually child abuser she is, then when I saw her true colors, I was done. And then even though it hurt, I had to get a protection order against her because she threatened me after we were arguing and she's doing all the shit talking. See, losers will talk the most shit. My haters that say, oh, you only got custody because your baby's mom was a black crackhead, or you must have inbred and then you got a child, you got a Down syndrome monkey child. Guys like that who say that, they're showing why they lost in court. I did a TikTok video where I showed those guys' DMs. Maybe I posted on YouTube. I can't remember what all I put on TikTok and posted on YouTube. It's an extra step I have to do. Anyway, let me go. Is there any way to change the feminist judge? Yeah, a motion to recuse. But you don't say, I'm changing you because you're feminist. You have to use case law and different reasons in the law that they're violating the code of judicial conduct or they're biased or all that other stuff. But you need to get case law. So if you're lost on how to do that, you need to consult with me. Should you include statutes and case law in every motion, and how many? Whatever applies. If I'm saying the court should give me custody because that's the public policy, I need to cite the public policy. You're not allowed to go to court and ask them to do something that's not in law. That's why lawyers have a job. The judge is only allowed to do what the law allows them to do. So when you go to court and ask them to do something, you need to cite the law that allows them to do it. Kind of simple answer to that. I never thought being a father to an American woman would cost me so much stress and finances. Sometimes I borrow to pay child support. Crazy nightmare as a Nigerian man. Now, my Nigerian clients, it's crazy. They're some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Like, I have a guy who was a Nigerian client about 7 years ago, and he was getting screwed. And I can't remember if Nigeria is more of a patriarch culture. I think it's more of a Christian nation. Am I right? But anyway, they're some of the nicest people I met. And the guy that I dealt with, he was like, James, I don't understand why she would do that. And instead of him being outraged, he's like, I'm perplexed and I don't understand what's going on. And he's saying it in the nicest way while being betrayed by a psychotic child abusing Judas. That guy's actually trying to come back and change custody because now she's abused the kids. But yeah, feminism has taken over Western society. It's a Jezebel spirit, if anybody of you know about. In the Bible, Elijah was a prophet who talked smack to 300 wizards and warlocks and evil folks that could have got him killed. And he was talking smack to 300 guys who could have got him killed in that day. Then a chapter later, he's running from one woman, Jezebel, who said she's going to kill him. Because dudes are afraid of women who talk smack. Again, fear causes people to run when nobody's pursuing them. You get this delusional, mentally ill fear of women. And because of that, we've let feminists take over. When you go to legislatures, the feminists, they'll go, when you pass a law, you go into a committee meeting and you talk about the law. Then you get it out of committee. Then you put it on the floor to be voted on. The feminists just walk down to the floor and say, we have another domestic violence law. And they go, oh, okay, sure. We want to protect women and children. Boom. All the pussy-ass bitch-made male legislators just follow along because they're scared of the psychotic, radical feminist, man-hating lesbians up there saying all men are bad. We need to protect women. Women commit 60% of child abuse and at least 50% of domestic violence. It's well documented and provable. And that's only the reported stuff. Women probably commit 80% of domestic violence. And I love women. I grew up with 3 sisters and a mom. And I was a beta most of my life. Most of my friends, I enjoyed my friendships with women more. I still was an athlete. I was a football player and a basketball player and was competitive and had alpha male tendencies, but only when I really needed them because I was a nice guy. Now everybody thinks I'm an asshole because I'm passionate about guys growing some balls and rescuing their kids. This is non-negotiable. I shouldn't have to coach you to love your kids enough to want to fight and go to war for them. Because everybody talks so much shit. I'll kill for my kids. I'll die for my kids. I'll do anything. Oh, you want me to talk bad about the mom? Oh, I don't know if I can do that. That might hurt her feelings. Then I'll hurt my chances of getting back with her. And then the judge will be hurt and cry, whine, whine, whine. Everybody's feelings going to be hurt. But I'll die for my kids. Get the frick out of here. That fake ass bull crap. One thing I've hated my whole life since I was a kid: fake people and bullies. I would withdraw from a crowd if I thought everybody was being fake. I remember being in middle school and everybody everybody puts up a front to try and getting cool and try and be cool. Like, let's go to the party, and they've never drank or kissed a girl. Like, yeah, I'm a womanizer. Yeah, and I kick back some beers, and then they go to a party and they're all nervous and they give in to peer pressure. And it's crazy when you go to family court, all the attorneys and judges are giving into peer pressure like they're in middle school. Well, we got to give custody to the mom because that's the way we've always done it. We got to do this because that's the way we've always done it. If you were a white attorney in Jim Crow South and you wanted black people to be liberated from their treatment or Jim Crow laws, you would be afraid of what people thought about you because the whole culture of the Jim Crow South was racist. Nobody wants to stand up and go against the crowd. Only a small percent of people ever stand up in life for anything. Everybody is a bitch ass sheep for the most part. And I've learned it still frustrates me, but I've learned to cope with it. I used to want to win everybody over because I got the answers. You want to fight for your kid? Yeah. Are you willing to do anything? Yeah. Here's what you got to do. Oh, no, that's too much. I'd rather go out and party every weekend. Okay, F you. You're a punk ass bitch sellout of a father. If you love your kids, you will love them more than your comfort, more than your own time, more than the pain you have to go through, because your kids are worth it. If you go through hell in your custody battle originally, you will have more peace later. If you compromise or settle or don't fight or agree to an order at mediation that you don't like, you will have hell to pay until they're 18, and they might get brainwashed and you'll never have a relationship with them again. I know a guy that comes to mind. He signed off on an order that says the parents shall have custody of the mom, the father shall have visitation as the parties agree. This stupid, retarded, dumbed down, airheaded, brainless, zombie, sheep ass bitch didn't even pay attention to the plain English of what he signed off on. It basically said, as the parties agree, he can have visitation. So what does that mean? If he wants the weekend and the mother doesn't agree, he doesn't get it. He didn't see his kids for like 2 years. Then he calls me and wants some help, and then I tell him what he's got to do, and I never heard from him again. That's my gender. So I don't want to deal with punk-ass, cowardly simp bitches. And I don't care if you're 6'4", 300 pounds. That chick that I told you that I dated, her other 3 kids are with the dad. And I know I look like a dumbass because she had multiple kids. But, you know, she grew on me like anybody else you spend time with. I was actually helping her out as a friend when she got her arm broke after she attacked her ex-husband's new wife. And the new wife punched her in the face, dropped her, and he shattered her arm. So I found her other youngest child who lives with her. 3 of her kids are gone. She's still getting welfare. 90% of her rent is paid for. She gets food stamps and all this other stuff. And then she's crying that her kids ran away from her because she abused them. I found out later she abused them. Whipped them with a cord, locked them out in the rain, no shoes, whatever. I thought she had rebellious kids. She had to be twisted. Anyway. Her 6-year-old daughter. I found that baby's dad. And I said, dude, you have a great chance for custody and I can help you. He said, cool, let's do it. And then he's like, oh, I don't know. Well, let me get a lawyer. Then I'll really go after her. Then he changed his mind. And then I said, she's back with that boyfriend that beat her up. He goes, oh, I'm going to kill that mother effer. You know where he lives? And I said, yeah. And I said, but don't go kill him and catch a case. Go get your kid and rescue her. Rescue her from being around that abuser. He wouldn't do it. And then somebody was passing around this post that she had on Snapchat saying she's depressed and she wants to kill herself, and the child is the only thing that keeps, and all the drugs that she takes or the pills that she pops to get rid of the pain is not working, and nobody cares about her, and all her kids are gone, and the baby's dad, you know, the other baby's dad collects the tax return and she should have it because her kids abandon her when she needs her. All this psychotic narcissistic stuff. And then she's posting a picture of her daughter in underwear so people can see. Now, I don't know if she did it on purpose. She was tipsy and drunk that night, but she posted a picture of her with her legs hanging out of a dress, and her daughter's wearing a shirt and underwear. And when she's on Snapchat, that's where she meets all these thirsty dudes that she sleeps with for money. I told the baby's dad about that. And I didn't want to pass that picture around because that could have been considered child porn. Somebody showed me that picture. And I said, I don't want to possess that. That's basically child porn almost. And she might be dangling her child to lure perverts so she could do some prostitution to survive. And that dad still said he didn't want to go for custody because she probably would kill herself because she said in the same post that she'd want to kill herself. That's my pathetic bitch-ass gender. And this guy, he loves to fight, and he can beat a lot of people up. Yet he was a pussy coward when it came to his own kid. That's my freaking gender. And I'm sick and tired of it. And I'll call it out in a hot second. And some guy wants to talk to me about this and that, and he wants to tell me all the reasons why he can't fight. I don't want to talk to him or help him or make money off of him. Meanwhile, Eric Carroll from Dad Talk Today, Papa, the Father's Rights Movement, they're collecting donations and making money and doing jack shit nothing for anybody. Crazy part is kids are resilient now. I tell my friends never to let an American woman give you kids. It comes with... That's why they have the passport bros. And a bunch of women are bitter that men are leaving the country to go after women. Why do the women even give a shit about that? Why are they going on and complaining? Guys are saying, hey fellas, go to Brazil where it's a patriarchal country where women cater to a man and submit to him and let him be a leader. and they're not these radical feminists, or go to this country or that country, go get a tiger. I had a guy at my job. He was Laos. He goes, I'll find you a good Laos woman. She'll cook, clean, obey, all this other stuff. I said, dude, I don't want a robot. And he's like, no, they're just more respectful of men. I said, I don't want a hookup. I want a natural, organic relationship. But there's women who respect and love men out there in different countries, and it's not here. And the big, butch, manly, strong, independent, whatever, psycho bitches raised by a mother who don't need a man are sitting here telling men that they're punks for going somewhere else. That's a psychotic, evil bitch who, with a Jezebel spirit, who says, I don't like men. I feel rejected by men, so I'm going to project on them and say, go ahead, bitch, and they'll talk shit about. If you got a man or you can get a man, why do you care about all these other men? Why? Because the pickings are slim. I just saw somebody break down the math. You know, the 666 thing. Women want men with a 6-pack, 6 foot tall, 6 figure, and 6 inches. I guess there's 4 6s. They said the number of men who make 6 figures who are over 6 feet tall is like 0.1% of the population. So half the women out there, maybe more, 60, 70%. Kevin Samuels would have them on there. I got 3 kids by 2 different babies' dads, and I'm 40 years old, 5'11", 240 pounds. I want a man making $500,000 a year. Delusional entitlement. Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tate and other people like that, they exposed women's psychoness or psychoticness. I got, where I'm parked right now, I got security walking around. Looks like they want me to get up out of here, so I may have to wrap up here soon. But let me see. One of my secrets to a win, watch James for a brain spark. Secondly, keep communication with her strictly in text. Yeah, you want a paper trail of everything, because when you go to court, you can't just talk about what somebody says. And you can't say, oh, she did this or she said that. You want to get people to confess stuff in text. Women set men up like that. See, women are smart and conniving. You got to give it to them. They'll say all kinds of stuff and provoke a dad to do stuff. And I had a guy, he got a restraining order for 5 years because he said, you keep my kid from me, heads are going to roll. Well, she said that was a murder threat, and she got a 5-year protection order because that dude was a dumbass that he put that in text. Like, before I even ever went to court, I knew not to create a paper trail of stuff. But see, you guys don't think outside of yourself. You have no self-awareness. You will never think, how can this come back to haunt me if I do this? You got to use some damn common sense. It's too late. Take some rest. No, it's not. My hours are all kind of screwed up. I have people calling me all kinds. I talked to a guy in a country in Asia, in the continent of Asia earlier, because of his time. You know, I crashed early last night and I got up late. Actually, my mom's birthday is today, and I was out shopping for some flowers and some stuff, and so I just sat in this parking lot where I was at and decided to talk to you guys while I was thinking of something. The attorney for the child in my present trial is only attacking me in her line of questioning, and it's completely disregarding my testimony of her gatekeeping. How do I get her removed for this? If you're in trial, it's too late. You're at trial. You're at the end of your case. You can't get somebody removed in the middle of trial. You got to destroy her. You should call her to the stand. If she's acting like a witness, first of all, you need to know the rules of professional conduct. If she's acting like a witness and testifying, she can't do that. You could have her removed for testifying on the spot, or you either get her to stop testifying or have her removed. So you need to know the rules of professional conduct. But if you're asking these basic fundamental questions and you're in the middle of trial, you need a consult. This is why I tell people you need a consult. You can't ask me a question that says, what are all the strategies that are enveloped around attorney misconduct? How do I argue something at trial? That's like saying at the final exam, let's say you're taking astronomy in college, and the day before the final exam, you say, what do I need to know about astronomy on the test? There is no way somebody can tutor you in 5 minutes and tell you everything to get ready for the final exam. You need a consult for that. You need to have spent time learning all this stuff. Some of the questions here are typical where you're asking me a question that you should have known a long time ago. And if you're in the middle of trial and somebody's falsely accusing you, I need to know what they're saying. I need to know what's going on in your case in order to counter what they're saying to make them look stupid. I don't have time to do that in the comments here. You need a consult with me. If you're that lost on an issue like that, that's pretty, that you know, you should have mastered by now, you need a consult. If she's ignoring your, first of all, the attorney for the child is not your attorney. So you're saying she's ignoring my testimony. She's not the judge who's supposed to listen to your testimony. She's in a, everybody that's not you is your enemy in court. You can't expect her to say, oh, I totally believe the father because he's telling the truth and it sounds great. You have to do persuasive argument. It's called persuasive argument because you're going in there to persuade somebody to believe you. You don't go in there and say, here's the truth, and the mother says, there's my truth, and they say, oh, the dad's telling the truth, so he wins. Nobody believes anybody or knows shit because they don't know you. You have to convince them with evidence, not just your story sounding good. And I don't know, you might have evidence, but you're saying she won't listen to my testimony. She doesn't have to listen to jack shit. She doesn't have to listen to anything. You're in there to persuade the judge. If you're playing a football game and you tell the other side, stop holding, stop tackling me out of bounds, stop grabbing my face mask, and the referee doesn't see it, the other side is not going to call a penalty on themselves. They're your opposition. You have to tell the referee. The referee in your court case is the judge. You have to convince the judge that the attorney is committing misconduct. That's the short of it. How to do that? That takes an hour to an hour and a half a consult. That's why my initial consult's an hour and a half. If you've had an hour and a half consult with me, like a lot of people have, you can do a follow-up in 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, whatever 30-minute increments you want. Sorry about the shaking. Let me just pull this off so I'm not shaking as much. Yeah, maybe that's better. But, okay, there we go. I'm gonna have to be farther away here. So, let me see. I might pull over up here. I got a few more questions that I want to get to, but I can't do anything right now. I'm coming up to an intersection where there's police. Looks like there's a car accident up here. Here, hold on a second, you guys. Wow, somebody wrapped around a pole up here. Okay, let me pull over and then I'm gonna have to bail and finish this off here. If you want to watch more of my videos, like I kind of said and alluded to, I got more videos on TikTok because sometimes I don't get them uploaded to YouTube. So if you follow me on TikTok, if you just type in how I got custody, the hashtag how I got custody, you can get to my TikTok that way. But let me see what we got here for other questions. You're absolutely right. She's part of the Jezebel category. Last year she had a car with full tinted windows, front and back, stalked me, and I took the car license number to a cop friend. Run that. Yeah, so that's the kind of stuff a lot of guys don't do. They'll just say, oh, she stalked me, not get a license plate, not do a background check on a guy that lives with their kids or whatever. So never give up, people. Keep fighting for your kids. Keep fighting, people. At the end, it'll be worth it. Yep. Okay, I guess that's everything. I'm going to jump off here. Hopefully you guys got some good information. I was mainly getting on here to let people know I empathize with, I acknowledge the suffering that people go through. It's real. But we can't sit around and just wallow in our suffering. There's a war to fight. Anybody who's gone to war is suffering. But they fight the war so that they can come home. And you're in a war over your kids. You want your kids to come home. So you got to look at that in the end. I have all kinds of videos where I talk about the mentality you got to have. I just did on TikTok. Well, I just did on YouTube too. The basics, back to the basics, the mentality you got to have. If you don't have that mentality, you lose. You might as well give up. If you're not going to fight for your kids, give up and have peace right now. But you'll be miserable not having a relationship with your kids later on. But if you don't want to fight, don't spend a bunch of tens of thousands of dollars. Just quit and surrender and give the mother what she wants. And then you won't have to worry about all that stuff. But if you want to fight, there's hell to pay. And it's worth it in the end if you fight and get on the offensive. Yeah, the shock of the 180-degree turn that these witches make after they have kids. Well, a lot of them go postpartum, a lot of them go crazy, and a lot of them a lot of them are Jezebels, and they look to extract resources and provision from it. You know, there's a natural God-given desire of a woman to find a man that's a provider. But it gets perverted where they say, oh, let me use that guy for this and take that from him and take that from him and take that from him. Just like men, we have a natural desire to pursue a woman. God made us to be turned on by eyesight. And then we deal with lust or struggling with, wanting to get with every good looking thing that we see. That's where our human nature gets out of hand. It's supposed to be, we're supposed to look at a woman and adore her and pursue her. And then, when it comes to getting with your wife, we get turned on by eyesight and we praise her and we give her all the emotional and non-sexual affection that she needs, and you guys come together. There's a natural order to this stuff, but it gets perverted in this perverted world. So, but yeah, that's the way these Jezebels are. So anyway, I'm gonna jump off of here. Everybody keep fighting the good fight. If you're lost in any area, get a consult with me. If you do anything less than a consult, then you're shorting yourself.